All right. So we're back with Disco's favorite segment of the show, the Lucha Libre Minute. Boom. What you got?
All right. What's up, guys? Obviously, the big news this week was our own boss, Conan, was on Wrestling Observer Radio with Garrett Gonzalez and Dave Meltzer.
Wait a second. Wait a second.
Yes. There's a part that ties into you on this. But yes.
That's the big news of the week in Lucha Libre?
The news that came out
that Conan just went and talked to Dave.
It's a slow week, I guess.
the news that came out of what Conan was talking about. There was news on that podcast that you should get into for people that did not listen to it, that did not subscribe to Wrestling Observer because they listen to Disco and think it's a dirt rag. There's some news in an interview that might be important. So Conan had announced in that podcast.
Why do you think, Larry? You're a fan, many years inside the business, and you love rumors. Why do you think Disco has so much heat when half the time, and I know you've read it, half the time when they put quotes from him or me, more than half the time they're taken out of context just to get clickbait or heat, and they don't listen to the whole thing. But why do you think he has so much heat?
I think Disco plays into it personally.
First of all, I take shots at Dave on Twitter because Dave has refused to come on the show. Okay,
right.
And finally, he made it clear that he's not going to come on the show if I'm on it. So I took another shot at him. But that's fine. It's all fine. It's all fine and dandy. It's all fine and dandy.
Did you hear that part or no?
I did. That was the end of the interview. That was great. You asked him to come on, and he just was silent. Yeah.
Here's my point. Okay, yes. Dave is a media guy. And I think Dave drives a lot of, I consider Dave like the paper of record in the wrestling journalism community. Like he to me is like the grand poobah. He's been doing it forever. He contributes the most content to everything. However, I think Dave has just like a lot of what's happened in media the past 10 years, a lot of stuff that Dave is reporting has become, I think, narrative driven. And I would like to debate. I would like to debate him on some of the narratives that he drives on the show to just have a discussion. He refuses to come on the show to do that. Yeah, I'm not going to bury the guy or something. But Dave, absolutely, you can see the way his coverage over the years. It has gotten very similar, like the mainstream media does, very narrative driven.
Bro, the problem is that you have guys. Wait, let me just say this, Larry, and tell me if you agree or disagree, or Joe. You've got to remember, bro, everybody's different. So, Vince is like, come on my show. And we're like, come on our show. But there's guys that are like, what am I going to go on your show for? To argue? I don't want to argue. I just want to have a good time. It's like when you go to somebody's house and you're like, hey, is your stepbrother going to be there? Yeah. You know what? I'm not going over, because they don't want a lot of people don't like confrontation, bro, whether it's in civil or not.
Right.
We don't I'll debate until the sun comes out. But
that's where I think that their credibility falters, because I'm very willing to debate everything I say with anybody, and so are you. But then you got people that are prominent voices in this business don't want to debate any of their ideas. They just want, this is what I'm saying, this is the way. And I was like, wait a second, I could disagree with that. Let's have a conversation. No, I'm not coming on your show. Okay, fine. But to understand the people that are willing to debate and the people that are not willing to debate their views. Okay, just make that very clear. So Dave's not willing to debate his views. So that's that's very clear. When is the last time Dave has done any media with anybody that wasn't friendly and just agreed with him?
Well, that goes to my point.
Okay, go ahead.
Some people are gonna. It's like when your boy, because you are his mentor, Billy Body, was like, "Hey, man, do you think you could get me an interview with Dave Meltzer?" And when I asked him, he goes, "Why should I? This guy talks about me all the time." I go, "Bro, why are you setting me up to look like a dick in front of this guy? Hey, can you get me Kevin Cross?" And then I didn't even know this, but he had buried Kevin, buried his wife, talked about him. It's like, go yourself, dude. And so, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Who would you rather want to take wrestling analysis from on a business standpoint? I mean, like guys like, Ryan Satin, who worked for a WWE show and did that TMZ kind of crap, or like Rosenberg and Sam Roberts, who are on the pre-show. Like, there's co-opted members of the media out there that do the Barry Dave thing because it's popular. And then there's guys like Conrad, who has literally made a second career out of burying Dave by taking Dave's Observer and like reading the bits of it and cherry picking it and getting and interviewing Bischoff.
Wait a second. I don't look at that as I don't look at Conrad as burying Dave at all.
Let me just say this so he understands. You just asked who would he rather listen to. He's a Sean Rass Sapp and Ryan Satin guy, just so you know.
Okay.
Right.
Go ahead.
Are you really?
No, Bisco is.
Well, no,
I
none of those guys, bro. All of those guys, okay. And Larry, I know what you.
I hate you.
These guys have hit up my DMs. Of like all these dirt sheet guys, they have all of them, with the exception of very few. No. They share a very similar quality. And I could show you my DMs. I've got from all various different guys, right? Yeah. They all are extremely arrogant.
100%.
Extremely arrogant. And it's like you're listening to like in these DMs, they're literally like minimizing our show. Why would I do your little show? Why what does that do for me? Bro, these guys they get wrapped up in their self-importance. And I'm like, okay, dude, you're very self-important. You're very egotistical. You have a lot of strong opinions. I'd like to debate some of them with you. And I've been we've never ever had anybody on the show that I disrespected. And to the point that when we had Dave on this show, people got mad at me for not burying him. Okay, no lie. So like, but go ahead because I just don't have a lot of respect for people that are going to be clouded in arrogance and not being able to defend their position.
I think Dave's the fairest out of everybody out there, and I think Sapp's good. I think Sapp's very good at now having a lot of. Sapp clearly has connections. He has stories, but I think Dave historically is the fairest. And if you go back and read, like I do it all the time. When I get bored or something pops in my mind that I want to read about or that I want to see, like Conan was talking on a podcast about his debut in WCW and stuff like that. So I go, all right, let me go back to that time period and read about it because I wasn't a subscriber when I was a teenager or in my early 20s. I didn't have the money to spend the $90 for 10 episodes.
How much is it a month for the Observer, Joe?
It's like $14.99 a month for the website.
Oh, is it? Oh,
is it really?
Maybe it's 15. 10? I thought it was 10 or 15, yeah.
10 or 15.
And that gets you the newsletter, it gets you all the audio, and it gets you right, like Larry was saying, it gets you the whole archives back to 1983 or whatever.
So if I wanted to read about when Conan beat One Man Gang, and One Man Gang was very hard to work with, I can literally go back, figure out when that date was, find that Observer, read about it, and see what was said about it at the time. I give myself a fresh perspective on this.
He does do a really good job of encapsulating what was happening in that moment.
He's absolutely the best historian and one of the better historians in journalism. Because when somebody dies, it's like this guy's got like an encyclopedia on this guy, so which is fascinating. It's like how did he find time to like gain that much information on people, be able to with all the writing he does every week, the guy's a tremendously hard worker. Nobody works hard in this business than Dave Meltzer. I think
he's like Rain Man, like Dave's like Rain Man. 100%. He just has like a way of calculating things, and again, people get on him all the time.
And a ridiculous memory too.
Yes, and people get on him all the time for things because the stuff like, dude, who's the leak? Who's giving him the information about the Punk Young Buck stuff? It's not the Young Buck.
Let me give you. I'm going to ask you, Larry, because you sound like you're a supporter. Like I could argue this point with you. Yeah. I could argue this point with you. Okay, because Dave won't come on here and argue.
Okay.
So all of a sudden now, in the past couple years since AEW has come along, we've changed the way that we
matches are rated.
No, not match rating. Match rating is a completely different story. Dave's match ratings are they're common. They gave 4 3/4 stars. Omega thinking the guys are slapping their thighs and blading themselves on the front of the camera. And they get those matches getting 4 stars. Ridiculous. So, but I will say this, okay, is that when Dave changed a thing and started talking about the demo, okay, the demos are the most important part of the rating, and he was just like, he just announced the rating tweak for the demo, which AEW, they perform better the demo than total viewers. My point that I would like to ask him is dude, literally half the audience today, okay, 52% of the wrestling audience on TV that watches on TV is over 50 years old.
Right.
Okay. So why are you literally? Because but basically, we want to know how a show performs in the ratings every week. I want to know how many of all the fans that watch one week, how many of all the fans watch the next week.
Right.
Okay, well, he says, well, that doesn't matter. The demo is all that matters, 18 to 49. It's like, wait a second. Half your audience is over 50 years old, and if that demographic saw fewer viewers, why is that irrelevant?
My buddy,
we're over 50 years old. He's over 50 years old. It's like, bro, I'm telling you, the thing is because they don't want to every week to report how did the AEW do in total viewership, because at 9 o'clock, from 9 to 10 every single week, they were getting slaughtered by a show called Dr. Pimple Popper, which is on AEW, which is doing 1.9 million total viewers on the A&E network of a doctors that pop pimples. Okay. Yeah. And I could tend to say, well, that to me, that's relevant data. If your show is, if a show of a doctor popping pimples is doing twice as many viewers from 9 to 10 than your wrestling show, I think that's relevant data. They never even bring it up.
My buddy.
So I would like to discuss stuff like that. But I can't get the guy on the show to talk about it. Go ahead.
My buddy who buried me, in a Discord about leaving the Nick game early. He's in television advertising sales for the last 15 years. Mm-hmm. And legitimately, he would say that they sell advertising based off of the demographic rating, because people don't care about the spending habits. Like, my mother watches Dr. Pimple Pop. My mother's on a fixed income. So she's not buying a different brand of potato chips.
And we could argue this. Let me make a point.
Yeah.
This is different. And this is where the wrestling televised audience, okay, mm-hmm. and advertisers probably look at the wrestling televised audience, okay, and it's like different than the reason. And it's funny, like, hockey won't do as well in the ratings as wrestling. Basketball often doesn't do as well. There's a lot of sports that don't do well on like Wednesday night in the ratings. But okay, however, this is the difference, and this is what advertisers, the reason that they get significantly more television rights fees than wrestling does, is because every week wrestling has a very unique, concentrated audience. Okay, you have like let's call the AEW. There's 850,000 people watch one week.
Right.
The same people are probably going to watch it next week, give or take 20 to 25,000. Okay.
Right.
And those 20 to 25,000 the following week may come back. But bro, you're marketing to the exact same group of people for as an advertiser. Right? Like literally like every single week, it's like we're just selling ads to the same people. Joe will attest to this. A lot of the ads that in the podcast wrestling market, they stopped doing the ads because it's all the same audience.
Correct.
Like, why are we paying for the same people? Like, why are we giving two shows the same ad dollars when like half the audience listens to both the shows?
Right. There's a big crossover on that.
Okay. Now the difference with sports is like, bro, there's not like a guy in Atlanta, Georgia, okay, that watches the NBA Wednesday night every single week. However, if the Atlanta Hawks are playing the Boston Celtics, more unique viewers from those specific markets will watch the product that week. So sports fans are drawing unique viewers every week, depending on the market of the teams that are playing in the game. Could we agree with that?
But look at the regional sports ratings on things. Like the San Diego Padres were getting like 44,000 viewers on their regional sports network, right?
Right.
But the Instagram stuff gets like 1 million when they put out the clips from MLB. So like I don't know, like.
Well, that's no. But you're talking about regional broadcasting. That's completely different. I'm talking about cable.
Right.
Like when's like NBA on TNT. NHL on TNT. That the reason they're getting the rights fees is because they have a much larger market of sports fans for those sports that they can draw. And every week we're going to get a little piece of that pie, depending on what teams are playing. We're marketing to a wider, vast audience. Wrestling's marketing to the same people every week. So wrestling, so the argument of like wrestling should get the rights fees of the sports, it's like no, like that's why wrestling. We've always said this on the show. That's why they need to increase your audience, and a lot of the wrestling shows are doing things that do not increase your audience, and that's what we're critical of, and that's what we talk about. Like that's the narrative that we drive on the show, and I'd like to talk to some like other people, the dirt sheet guys about this and everything, and they don't want to come on the show. These are interesting conversations. Go ahead.
The thought process, I think, would be along the lines of like live sports is DVR proof, right? Like you're less likely to DVR. Like Mets are playing the Rays right now, right? We haven't
Once you
won
know
a
the
series.
sport's done, it's like, I don't. You know,
I'm not taping it. I'll go back in and put it on whatever inning it's in. That's where it's at.
You can go on the Mets Twitter feed and get all the highlights. Every time's a home run, correct?
There is not a single show on television that I watch live day of. Mm-hmm. I wait for its DVR. I can fast forward through commercials. I'm done in 42 minutes.
And you stay away from spoilers.
Yeah, exactly. Raw is
the only thing.
Zero shot in hell I'm watching a 3-hour Raw. Like zero shot in hell. Like live. I'm not sitting there from 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock. Yeah.
Right.
I'm just like you. The only thing that I watch live is like a really, really important game. You know, the playoffs. The playoffs. Like I'm going to watch the Celtics when we get off of here.
Yeah.
And UFC. Right. And if there's and like if there's a big boxing match, which doesn't happen that much.
Right.
That too.
Well, you're usually watching a pay-per-view in real time. Like buying a pay-per-view and watching it, buying a UFC pay-per-view and watching it later, it completely defeats the purpose of paying for it.
Well, here's the thing. Sometimes I work. Sometimes I work while the UFC is on. I'm sure that's happened to you, Larry, while the UFC is on.
100%.
And so I have this free link where I can go back and put it on.
Yeah, go home Sunday morning, watch it Sunday morning if I can avoid the results and everything like that. Yeah. I mean, listen, you're not making bad points about what you're saying, and I don't know enough about I know what I read. I don't know. And like I said, my friend Joe, is in a Discord, Droopy or whatever he is, like he's in advertising sales. Like that's literally what he does, and we'll talk about it sometimes because he'll bring up.
Let's bring this guy on. I want to bring that guy on this show.
Okay,
and have a discussion with. Let's get that guy because honestly, that I want to know what the price, like what what advertisers are like what they're charging and what networks are charging advertisers to advertise on the wrestling shows.
Yeah, because
that's what I'd like. I would like that data.
He used to do the Sinclair. He used to do the Sinclair time buys for Ring of Honor and stuff. So he knew all about what Sinclair was trying to do at Ring of Honor and all that. Because we talk about it like occasionally.
Right.
It was very minute. It's minutia that you would be interested in. Like I'm
definitely interested in stuff like that. I like being more knowledgeable on these subject matters than the typical layperson.
Yo, what up? This is Conan, and I host Keeping It 100. My co-host Disco Inferno. Unfortunately,
well, I'd say you're my co-host.
Listen, every Thursday here on Spreaker, we talk pro wrestling, sports, movies, music, TV, pop culture, and some politics. It's everything the rest of the pro wrestling podcasts are not.
Tune in to hear myself, the superior one, educate and inform.
Tune in to hear me bury Disco.
That's very disrespectful.
Join us every Thursday on Spreaker and keep it 100. Boom!